welcome back to the Diamond Show. We've actually got the band back together today with a cute little addition. So obviously it's me, Lucy, Sakina, Jamie, and...
Thank you for calling me cute, first of all.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, my daughter Olivia's here. We had no one to look after her, and I feel bad missing the podcast. And as I said, we haven't been together for a long time. So...
No, it's actually, this is our first special guest on this show.
Absolutely.
And she's
Honorary
sleeping,
member.
so
Yeah.
She's a perfect guest, really.
Literally.
For now, yeah.
We can just carry on waffling. Yeah, when she starts crying.
Until she
then we'll
wakes
be like,
up, or until I start whispering. Yeah, you'll work it out soon.
Yeah, no, that is so true. No, she's just so
but-
cute. I feel like we're going to get very distracted.
Yeah, no.
But
I'm
maybe
already
that's
distracted.
not a
It's too
bad
late.
thing, because we've just noticed that none of us wearing Arsenal shirts. And obviously the form with Arsenal has been crazy.
Yeah.
This show is the Diamond Show, which is basically focused on women's football, so the WSL mostly. But did you guys want to touch on the Champions League first before we get into that? Because I feel like that might fill us with a bit of confidence going into this episode.
Yeah, how can we not talk about it? We'll start with Chelsea. Of course,
Nice.
4-1 loss away from home.
Yeah.
And a 4-1 loss at home, and were absolutely dominated, weren't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel ahead of the final? Obviously, we predicted when we were on with Lloyd, Jamie, we predicted it to be an Arsenal-Barca final. But I think we were a bit more optimistic. But the fact that, obviously, we ended up smashing Lyon, that was good for us. But does it make you worried now, going against Barca?
Like, you do have that natural feeling of,
Yeah.
Barcelona are absolute powerhouses when it comes to the women's game, like, the players that they've got. So it is a bit like, oh, gosh. And then you beat Lyon the way we beat them, and you think, okay, a bit of hope. But then you see the way Barcelona went to Stamford Bridge and just...
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Chelsea are unbeaten in the WSL. And this team just took them apart twice. Not just away from home, at home as well.
It's insane.
Like, this team absolutely took them apart. So...
I think it's, though, that I feel like English football, we underestimate the difference between English football and European football.
so much more physical.
We're so much more physical. We were mentioning, obviously, before when we were talking about the quarterfinals, the semi-finals. But now going into the final, the difference is that we're going to bring that physicality, that aggression, whereas they're going to just run rings around us.
That's the thing, though. If you look at the Lyon game at Arsenal, and we went to the home leg, Arsenal were the more physical team, but Lyon were technically better.
Yeah.
And, of course, I think the issue is Lyon kind of let us win that game because they went into the game thinking it's just going to be the same as before. Let's be honest, Lyon just started the game defending, which didn't really make any sense because at home you kind of want to at least get a goal. But I think that's where they kind of underestimated Arsenal, whereas in the first leg we underestimated them because they're technically brilliant. The difference with Barcelona is they're not only technically brilliant, they are physical as well.
Yeah.
Like they
kind
have
of do a bit of everything.
they have pace, they have physicality, they
Yeah.
have technical ability. And I think that's where you see where Chelsea have dominated the ball in every WSL game. They've dominated every game. Even the games they've drawn, they look like they're going to win it. They hardly saw the ball against Barcelona. Barcelona
were tracking back.
Exactly, but Barcelona start, and I think it proves that with a team like Chelsea, if you start the game attacking from the first minute, they're going to be put under so much pressure. In their WSL, we let them put pressure on teams, which means they're going to eventually break you down. If you start attacking them first, you can break them down pretty easily. And once as it shows, once you break them down, you can just continue to break them down.
No, definitely. Who do you guys want to see in our squad for that game? I know for me, I need to have DVD in that net. Like, she's a must.
Yeah.
Also, the likes of Mariana Caldente, she's obviously won the Champions League with Barca before. She's technically gifted, so she can almost match their energy, but then complement with the other players. Like, for you guys, those names, any other names?
Daphne would definitely be the one I'd say. I'd like to see her back and go. Obviously, I think she's got injury issues. And all that stuff, and it seems, I don't know, it's like they put her in for a game that they think is more important, and then just take her out for like the WSL games, and I think it's been a big loss. Obviously that's no disrespect to Zinsberger. I mean,
she definitely is. Like, moving back to the WSL now, I feel like Zinsberger definitely is being used almost as a scapegoat for our downfall. I think you've got to look just in front of her. Don't get me wrong. When I focus on that, I mean, it's 5-2 Aston Villa, then 4-2 Brighton. Girl, that's what I was about to say. But honestly, like, I feel like they're literally dominating. Like, other teams are able to dominate us when we've got her in the net. But a couple of the goals, like, I mean, Frank Hervey's goal, that was, like, no one was going to save that.
No, exactly. But I think
certain ones you could.
Also, I do think Arsenal have kind of just realised they've got to the final, but I think we've been poor. In general, Arsenal haven't played well and have deserved to lose. I think the 5-2 was probably a bit harsh because the scoreline kind of didn't really show the whole game. But 4-2 definitely deserved to lose by, honestly, 4-0 even, because the performance just wasn't good enough. I think someone who's key for Arsenal is Russo.
Yeah.
And I think going into that Barcelona game, she is a must. And I think we're almost trying to play so cautiously so that we don't get anybody injured. Because if someone gets injured for that final, it completely changes the game. And I think, as I said, we're going into the games with mentality of we're in the Champions League final, we want to win that. But we also need to realise that, yes, the league has been won by Chelsea, but there's still, you're still playing for top four, you're still playing for positions. And also just playing for pride in general, which, not saying they're not at all, but you've got to go into the mentality. You saw it with the Liverpool men's team playing Chelsea recently. Yeah, they've won the league, but they played awful. And you look at it and go, well, you're still there to win the game.
I feel like, it's quite tricky. Like, they've almost become a little bit complacent. I know a few people were saying that it's almost like a hangover from that Lyon game. And don't get me wrong, sort of what you're saying. Before that Lyon game, we weren't playing to that standard.
Yeah.
So then now suddenly it's dropped. Everyone's thinking it's such a big drop. But we weren't ever at that standard before. We just suddenly brought that, and I'm hoping we can bring that again for the final.
There's a bit of a 50-50 as well.
Were you going to sneeze? I know, I was like, right, we've got two people now sleeping.
Yeah, there's a bit of a 50-50 as well, because what do? Do you risk the players, the main players, you risk them in WSL when you're not really fighting for anything, and you go through, win the games, play the best team possible, but risk the injury for the final? Or do you rotate the team, risk losing some games, having worse results, but then having all the players fit for the final? It's a difficult choice as a manager, because of course you want to win every game, but you know that if you play Russo every minute from now to the Champions League final, she's going to be burnt out by then. It's going to be tough.
I think it's tricky because obviously the last two games have not gone our way whatsoever. But they've happened now, and the game on Saturday obviously is so important to decide whether we're second or third. And it doesn't seem like a lot because obviously United have got Champions League football now after drawing to City, but it is a lot because there's an extra month of football that you've got to play, and the Women's Euros final happens in like 3 days later. Those qualifications start, and I'm like, we don't want to be doing that. We did that a few seasons ago. I think it was after. It's either after the World Cup or the Euros, and then we went out to Paris in like
that was it.
the second game or something. I was like, well, but that's just because of burnout, so many injuries.
Well, the time before that was Djurgården from Sweden, where the same thing happened, where you end up going through that playoff. You have a Euros where pretty much everyone in that Arsenal squad is going to play. You come back, you've got to rotate the team. Players are tired. Players are not up to, they've been playing with different teams, so they don't really know. They have to get back into kind of the way Arsenal play. Go out, as you said, went out to Djurgården before, went out to Paris. We don't need to do it to ourselves. We're in a good position. It's not necessary.
No, yeah.
With all that in consideration, then, as fans, do we sit back and just be like, okay, we're just gonna lose to these games. We're gonna lose these easier games. Then, do you know what I mean? We're upset about the 5-2, the 4-2. But then at the same time, we don't want to burn out our players. So it's a thing where we just suck that up and just think, oh, okay, it is what it is, and hope that we win the Champions League. But then if we don't win the Champions League, then all that kind of feels like a waste.
Yeah. You know well, I think that's almost where Arsenal are at with the men's side, because we put so much focus on the Champions League, and we obviously got kicked out last night, that now it's like, okay, so you don't have a Champions League trophy to show. It's got to a great position, don't get me wrong.
But what have you got to show?
But then you don't have anything in the Premier League. Like, it's another trophy this season.
Looking at Arsenal's fixtures, there's 2 games left that they've got to play this season. Next game is the last league game, which is Man United, which, if we lose that, that's going to be 3 losses in a row, going into then the last game being the final. Realistically, you wanted to have won the games, or at least not lost, because the other thing you've got to consider is, going into a final, you want to be in the best mood possible. The Man United game's on the 10th, then the Barcelona game is on the 14th, so you've got 2 weeks till then. You want to be leaving that Man United game having won maybe 2 or 3-0 on a high, instead of looking at 3 losses going into probably arguably the toughest team you're going to get in the world. So
I do feel like it's not the best. Like, we were on such a high, and now suddenly it's such a low.
Yeah.
But I feel like we have to give credit to the teams that Arsenal were playing.
Absolutely.
Because, like, Villa, they really showed up. Because at one point, I know I definitely said it. I was like, yeah, they're going to get relegated. Like, you know, they're competing against Palace at the bottom.
I did say it
Suddenly
as well.
They're just climbing because they've, gone 4 games, I'm pretty sure, unbeaten.
Yeah.
Which is a really good stat for them, considering they were literally basically in the relegation battle. And then Brighton, I feel like never underestimated them, but they've got such key players. They've got both young and like experienced players as well, which has definitely helped. But what are your sort of thoughts on the opposition? Because obviously we can't just be biased and talk about Arsenal.
Yes, it is like literally like well done.
Yeah.
You know, like,
is that it?
It's true though. Like you gotta give them credit. You know, they know what type of position we're in. That, you know, we're in a position where all our eggs are probably in the Champions League basket right now.
Yeah.
And they've capitalised on that, and so you've got to give them credit. Like we mentioned a bit earlier, I think a lot of our fans were using like Zinsberg as a scapegoat, but our defending was poor. But that's not to take any credit away from how well those teams attacked, especially in the Brighton game. Just looking at the back line, it's like, oh, okay, we're a bit shaky, and they took advantage of that.
They capitalised. I mean, there was, I don't know if it was for their 3rd or 4th goal, too many to count, but I think it was their 3rd one that Zinsberg basically chipped it out. The power wasn't there, the accuracy wasn't there.
Just went straight
their
to
defender swept it up, ran down, and then she who was it? Kantrovic?
Yeah.
I think, is that how you pronounce her name? She then basically just chipped Zinsberg, and I was like, that is not a great look.
This is the thing. It reminds me exactly of that first Lyon game, where the same thing happened, where we give the ball away in midfield. Zinsberg is so far off the line. Yeah. And I remember turning to you and saying, we're going to concede. And literally about 10 minutes later, they go and have a shot and it hits the crossbar.
Yeah, that's insane.
And I think the issue with that is, as I said, the whole team's not playing well. But you, as a goalkeeper, you all know, confidence from a goalkeeper breeds through the whole team. And if the keeper doesn't have confidence, that is going to mess with the whole club. And the issue is, if the keeper keeps giving away these wayward passes, the rest of the team are going to have to drop back, which puts you under so much pressure, which is then why, you know, another wrong clearance, you're so deep already that by the time they attack, by the time you reach them, they're already in your half, balls in the back of the net, but, you know.
Yeah, that chance was insane.
Yeah.
I think it was their striker who picked up the ball, and the minute she picked that ball up, you just knew she was just gonna have a shot on target, just gonna have a go. And then like you can see like obviously Zinsberg is trying to track back. But I think with situations like that, it's always bound to happen, especially where we play in a game now where they always want our keeper to go forward. Yeah. Like keepers, pretty much every
part
team.
Of the back line.
Yeah, the average position is like a third into the pitch.
Exactly. So when that happens and then you lose the ball and then their striker or midfield or whatever just has a go, then it's hard obviously to deal with that. But as a keeper, you have to have that mentality of it literally is what it is. Yeah. Because it's bound to happen, especially in that position there where the ball's lost around the midfield and their player who's their front three, by the way, absolutely unreal.
Incredible, yeah.
Anyone who picks up that ball and sees that as Zinsberg is off her line, they're just gonna have a go.
Absolutely.
So it kind of just is what it is. But I guess it's how you deal with that, just making sure you don't lose the ball in those positions.
You don't even need a good shot. Like even if it's like a poor shot, you're pretty much as long as you're over the keeper, you're pretty much sorted. But I think, as you said, it's more about. I'll talk about it in the the West Ham Palace game where it was 7-1, but.
Crazy
it's more,
game.
Yeah, but I think the thing I wanted to pick up on was the same thing with that Arsenal game was the recovery times. The recovery time of Brighton was, I think, about 5 seconds. For Arsenal, it was 9.5.
Oh, wow.
That's basically.
I feel like you always find out these niche stats.
It's the same in the Palace West Ham game. The West Ham recovery times were 4.5 seconds once they lost the ball. Palace was 15 seconds.
Jeez.
That's ridiculous. So you're telling me they lose the ball and it takes them 15 seconds to even try and win the ball back with West Ham. That shows why it's 7-1. But I think that's the issue with Arsenal is sometimes we're too slow to recover. And as I said, against a team like Barcelona in the final, even against Man United in the next game, by the time you start to recover in those 10 seconds, you could have already conceded. I think that's where Brighton absolutely capitalised on Arsenal just being a bit slow in the midfield.
Think also, not only obviously we've highlighted their attacking players, but also their keeper, Sophie Bagley, who literally just stepped in. Like, I saw an interview after, and she actually wasn't meant to play. Like, obviously she doesn't normally play, and so she just got the call up, and I was like, wow, and she did so well for them. I feel like she might have got player of the match.
No, the player of the match was
it not Sophie?
Kunterich,
the
midfielder. Who scored twice.
Well, yeah, that was like, she blasted that, so that's fair.
But 8.5 rating as a goalkeeper,
it's very good.
As I said, it doesn't show how the scoreline doesn't really reflect the game.
I mean,
8.5 is ridiculous.
Yeah, I feel like
could have been 4-4 again.
If she wasn't in that net, Arsenal probably would have drawn, and it wouldn't be as deep, but I feel like she definitely helped.
This is the thing, on FotMob, right? Their keeper's got an 8.5, Zimberger's got 4.1.
It's because it's because of that scoreline.
Yeah.
It's because of the 4 goals conceded.
But then also the back line for Arsenal, McCabe was 4.8. Like, the back line is poor. When you see their back line is
Do you see McCabe at one point as well? I think it was... who was that player? Who scored? I feel like there was actually quite a few goal scorers. She literally was like running down, and then McCabe like tried to... she went to, and then she was like, actually, let me not.
Yeah.
Because there was no point, like, at that point you sort of like, it's going to be a goal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just not the best. I feel like there's been a few other things that have happened over the last, couple weeks.
Yeah.
So, obviously, Brighton took advantage of us. Another thing I want to highlight is that Man United have secured, obviously, Champions League.
Yes.
From, obviously, we can talk about United more, especially when we talk about Arsenal facing them at the weekend, and the difference and what that means. But how do you guys feel, like, what do you guys feel about City? Because it's been a pretty tough month for them as a whole, like the last few weeks.
I don't really know what to think, to be fair. I think this whole season has been a bit of an interesting one for them in terms of, like, even, like, behind the scenes, like, apart from football, like, off the pitch type of stuff.
It's true, yeah.
I think it's maybe just like a stepping stone maybe for them to realise that, you know, I don't know to you. I don't know what to say. I feel like it's one of those seasons.
I think there was a lot of false hope, don't get me wrong, because in that final of the Subway Cup, in my opinion, they should have beat Chelsea. They were the better side. Didn't happen. They had obviously just got their new manager in as well, and he's been brought in to win these cups and get through to the Champions League. And obviously none of that has been done, so I don't actually think he's got too long at the club left, even though he's just gone it. And I feel like, obviously, Miedemar was injured, Shaw was injured, Hemp was injured.
They've been missing key players. If you look at their front four, would normally be Miedemar, Hemp, Shaw and Caroline. Caroline's the only one who's actually playing. Playing well, don't get me wrong, but of course...
If she's not got the link up, like the players...
She's going to play so much better with better quality players. Like, you know, when you have someone like Miedemar or Shaw... It's incredible. Do you know what I mean? So they are missing it. Don't get me wrong, but I think, you know. So there was maybe I want to say maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago when we were talking about the top 4, we were talking about Man City possibly pushing for the title. I think they almost got complacent themselves and started to. I just saw myself with the. I just forgot about that. They almost started to think, you know, we've got it wrapped up. Where, you know, then they suffered the 4-2 defeat to United, which kind of threw them off. But I think it's, as I said, it's almost complacency from them, which has kind of got them thinking, actually, we're in this position. You know, of course they got through to a Subway Cup final. They probably should have won it. But from
same
that
can even be said Champions League quarters. Obviously they then went out to Chelsea.
They were 2-0 up and ended up losing it. But I think, as I said, that's going to knock the confidence, because as playing Chelsea 4 times in the month is like crazy.
That was crazy.
They won 1 and lost 3 of those games. That's rough, because you've just been dominated 3 times by the same team. That in itself has got to knock your confidence, because they won the first one, then lost all 3. That's put you on. That's already a 3-game loss streak to the same team. And as I said, it's knocking your confidence. Then they come up against smaller teams, or teams they should be beating, and aren't putting in the performance that we know they can put in, which must be tough for them as well.
No, definitely.
I guess it's also probably a mentality thing as well. And then, like, talking about how many players they've got injured. What's their squad depth like? You know, when obviously losing a player like Bunny Shaw's like, you know, it's going to be impactful. Exactly. Yeah. But then you think, like, who else could they possibly bring in that can fill that gap, kind of? Do you know what I mean? And it seems like...
Yeah, it's not... It's not great, is it? Their squad depth isn't great. But what I would say, one thing about the United game was, we remember United went down to 10 players as well. They got a red card in the 40th minute.
Well, City were 2-0 up, and that's why I felt bad, because I looked at the final score, and then when I went back and watched the game, I went, okay, so I thought they were unlucky at first, and then I realised, well, how do you let a 2-0 lead? Because then potentially if Arsenal beat United on Saturday, then they could have got that Champions League spot. So a lot was riding on that game, and it's just
I have
crazy.
to give credit to United, though, because going down a player and then the performance that they put in, the heart that they put in, and unfortunately I don't know the recovery times for this game, but I can
why not? I did your research.
I can almost imagine that the team, so just before half time, the man just taken him in and said to him, look, we got to fix up here, and coming out and basically scoring, did they score before half time, or I can't remember. They scored literally on half time. That goal changes the whole game. Going into half time 2-1 instead of 2-0, completely different, especially when you're down to 10. And what they did was just sat back, let Man City attack. When they lost the ball, counter-attacked. And it's perfect game management, because you can't match them player for player. So what do? Counter-attack. It's the weakest part of City. We know Man City's defence is the weakest part. They capitalised on that, and honestly, it was impressive to watch.
I am excited to see United in the Champions League, because they've only, I don't know what round they went out in, but they've only really progressed in it in 2023 or something before, because obviously they're quite a new team anyways. So I'm excited to see what they'll be like. I feel like they've got a few key players, like Grace Clinton for me. In that game there were moments where she literally was just dancing around players, like in that midfield. I mean, for England, she is unreal. She is like one of our key players. I feel like obviously their keeper, I was going to say.
That contract extension too.
So she crazy. No. I do feel like the keepers, as much as you've got to give the goal scorers the credit, because obviously they find the net, there's so many keepers that I'm like, who would actually be your keeper of the season? Because you've got Hannah Hampton, you've got Daphne Van Domselaar, Fallon Tullis-Joyce, you've got... what? Yeah, you've got a lot. Obviously, they're the top ones.
My top two would be Van Domselaar and Tullis-Joyce. They would be my top two.
I think Hampton.
Really not Hampton? I was going to say.
I think...
Not to say that she's...
Arsenal, but
I think the reason she'd be there for me is because, look, as I said, when we went to watch, what was it? Was it Arsenal-Chelsea? She single-handedly saved them 4 times.
Quite literally.
And was absolutely incredible. And throughout the season, I don't think I can pinpoint a mistake she's made. And that for a keeper is ridiculous.
I mean, she even saved the Barca penalty.
That's what I mean.
Alexia Putellas. Like,
I don't think...
I remember watching that and I was like, oh.
Yeah, okay. I don't think I can pinpoint... I'm probably looking for... You probably could find 1 or 2. But the fact that, for example, if you look at like Keating, you can think of the Man United game where she had a poor performance. Van Domselaar's had some games where she's not been how we know she is. Man United as well have had poor performances. This is an unbeaten Chelsea team who have conceded nearly the least amount of goals in the league. She's got a high save percentage, so they're conceding shots, but she's saving them.
I do.
So
think
she's single-handedly there helping.
Helps a lot. Like the likes of Lucy Bronze, that's going to maybe Bright quite solid at the back.
I think it still doesn't change the fact that I think she has been incredible this season, and there are games where you can look back at it and go, Chelsea should have lost. There was the Aston Villa game where I think it was 2-2. Villa should have won that game, and if it wasn't down to her, they wouldn't have. The Arsenal game probably should have been 2-2, 2-1, or 3-2 even. Once again, saved it. So
no, actually, sorry, I just thought of a question as you said that. Bit off topic. Obviously, this is mostly WSL focused, but with Hannah Hampton proving in the WSL that she's such a big success, Mary Earps or Hannah Hampton for England this Euros? Right now, off the top of your head, quick fire. Who are you saying?
Earps. I'm still sticking with
Earps.
It? Yeah.
Same.
Ooh.
Same.
Proven goalkeeper. Proven, and it's done well for England. However, it's a very fine line between.
Yeah.
I think we've got
one or two mistakes could easily be changed.
1 or 2 games just before we go out to the Euros.
I think the Jamaica game
will
play. Yeah. That Jamaica game, I think she'll play to see how it is.
I think that will,
But it's a very.
I feel like Hannah Hampton is getting. It's
a very fine line between the two. I'll be honest with you.
See how we were deciding, what keeper we thought, definitely up there. I think there's no denying that she's been around for quite a while now. Do you know what I mean in that
sense?
sense?
Wait, which player? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I'm Hannah.
Oh, yeah. I was like, Mary, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
it's the same. Sorry. I was like,
I feel like...
Yeah, that's true.
We've known her to be a good keeper for a while now. And I guess, I mean, I wouldn't call it a breakthrough season. Because like, she's always been like...
So surely would you put her as better if she's being consistent? Or are you saying... Sorry, I'm not trying to... I'm just...
No, it's a good point. It's a good point.
But I would say the other season she hasn't been inconsistent as she is this season. This is the first season where she's properly stood out.
Well, she usually wasn't the main keeper,
what I mean.
was she? So.
And also, when she's played, she looked a bit shaky. Whereas this season, she's played pretty much most games, has been incredible throughout. And I think it's very harsh on Earps to drop her. I think from that number one position in England, of course you want to rotate sometimes. I think, if England do well in the first couple of group stage games, you might see that change coming in. But I think it's difficult, but I think, is it Sienna Fairman as the manager?
Yeah,
I think she'll want to stick with Earps because of the leadership she brings as well. The one thing I think that's the difference is the leadership Earps has is incredible. Hampton's the same, but
she's just a bit younger. I feel hopeful
less
about
experience.
The future of England, definitely with her.
I mean, that game not too long ago against Spain at Wembley, Hampton played, but I thought, is that because like she has a bit of Spanish experience, she can understand them a bit. So I'm sure like maybe Serena would do a bit of rotation, but I reckon like, Mary would still be the starting.
I agree.
Keeper, but that's no denying. Like, that's not saying that Hampton isn't a quality keeper.
Do you think rotation, actually, when we're talking about rotations with keeper, I didn't expect us to go on this little tangent with keepers. I quite like it. With the keepers, obviously, Arsenal, I feel like they're the only side really that play both keepers as much, because I think Zinsberger is too good to be a second option, but she's not good enough to be in the top 4 teams as the first option. So it's almost, when she's coming in, she's lost she's completely lost her confidence. I don't think social media is helping whatsoever.
No.
I'm scrolling through and I'm seeing these videos that these like 12-year-old people are recording of her like crying on the pitch, and I'm like, guys, like what is going on? It's horrible. Like honestly,
players need more respect. I'll be honest with you. Players. Yesterday, I'll take the men's team for example. The amount of people abusing the Arsenal team for being knocked out by PSG, who are probably favourites for the competition.
They've been favourites the last few rounds.
Like,
definitely.
Come on, and I think. First of all, we're going to talk about football in general. Hate towards certain clubs is massive. I think the Arsenal men's team get a lot of hate for no reason.
Probably get the most. I think we're the one club that just unites all the other clubs when it comes to hating.
No, absolutely.
The hate watch.
Because
didn't you say on your story?
I went to Box Park yesterday. Yeah. And I was meant to be preparing myself that, there will probably be more haters, but there were literally more people were turning up in United shirts, PSG shirts, and it's like
with your chest like wearing a different patch.
It's the hate watching's insane.
But I think
crazy.
Look, players know that, and I think the women's team are exempt to that, but it's still under the Arsenal name. The last thing players need is hate from their own fans. Especially because, look, we talk about the women's game being inclusive, how it's all, like, a lot of families who go. And I think the players thrive on that because you know that it's a smaller community, so you know that you're reaching out to people much more. The last thing you need is for now, on social media, players to start having a go at you and, bringing you down. As you said, if someone's crying on the pitch, let them be there. You don't think they're facing enough as a footballer? You can obviously tell that
she's on her way out.
Exactly. But also, like, you don't think she knows that it's not a good enough performance? Like, she'll know that more than any of us do.
I think as, like, pundits, reporters, anyone just observing the game, you can see and you can say it in the way of, we know objectively she's not good enough right now for Arsenal to be starting. But
you can't abuse someone.
There's also that line of...
There's a fine line.
Yeah, definitely going over. So in terms of keepers, I don't know if you think the rotation has weakened. Obviously, Van Domselaar maybe being that number one keeper, because she's not played as many games as
injuries as well. That's the one thing I would say. Van Domselaar was out with an injury for the Lyon game, for example. Still recovering now. As I said, this is the thing about rotation in terms of you're looking at the 2 games gone now. It's 2 games where you look at it and go, we probably should have rotated the keeper and still won the game anyway. But of course, as I said, having Van Domselaar come back from an injury, you don't want her to then go get injured. That's the last thing you need. So I think that, no other keeper in the league has really been injured, or at least has needed to rotate as much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably the main reason you've seen that rotation.
Yeah, because it's been like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks
exactly. Which is, it must be tough for the keeper as well, because keepers play different styles of football. When you have a back line who's used to maybe receiving the ball short, then suddenly you bring in a keeper who likes to go long, you've got to integrate that within seconds. I feel like you could
just tell our back line was a bit all over the place.
Absolutely.
Not like, where do we...
Yeah, changing keepers, it changes system.
Yeah. And it does bring me back to that. I think it was a goal you mentioned earlier against Brighton, where Zinsberger lost the ball, and then
they chipped.
It was like, or like, I don't know if it was McKay, but there was such a lack of communication.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, like, that's what you have training sessions for. That's what you have team socials for. You're supposed to find out about each player,
how they like to receive,
how you like to play, like, short, when there's a goal kick, do you want to go short, do you want to go long? These are things that, like, you think that they know about each other. But I guess, like, it all depends when you actually on the pitch, like training.
I think there was even more pressure because they were coming on the back of a loss.
Exactly.
A win before. So there was a lot. Also, we just spoke about Hannah Hampton. So I kind of want to move on to, obviously don't really want to talk about it too much, but Chelsea, they are unbeaten. They've been unbeaten for 22 games now. 21?
It is.
I swear it's 22 games in the season.
Too many.
I swear I saw a stat and it was like 20.
Oh, so
maybe it's 21.
They've played 21.
Yeah, okay, they've been unbeaten for 21 games. And I think only 3 of them are draws. So basically the game against Liverpool on Saturday will decide if they're unbeaten for the whole season. And I feel like if you look at, obviously, the men's side, we hold on to the Invincibles a lot. They're carving history in the WSL right now by creating this. Do you think they actually stay unbeaten?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, moving on. So basically,
they played each other on the 12th of April. Chelsea won the game 2-1. I can't see that, especially with the confidence now, as that they've got nothing else to play for. They're going to throw everything at this unbeaten record.
They know one more game and they've made history.
They're going to be doing that trophy lift as well. You know what they did last season and the 4 seasons before that as well? Like, they're used to that. Yeah. You don't want to do that on a loss.
Like, this is the thing. This is a team they've beaten twice. They beat them 3-0, 2-1. This is a team they know they can beat. They're not. I don't think they're gonna.
Because they just beat them in the FA Cup. Semi-finals, then get to the final.
I don't see that. I don't see them losing that game.
I'd say if you asked me like Christmas time, I was like, oh no, I feel like Liverpool, they've got that something about them. But now, since obviously they lost to Everton and they've lost both Merseyside derbies this season, I'm now feeling like maybe the confidence is dropping off a bit. I've heard people say as well next season they reckon Liverpool will be relegated. Or like fighting for relegation, and I was like, "What?"
I think that's
that's kind of crazy because I was like, I know they dropped off a little bit, but they haven't gone that far down.
I mean, look, their form's not been great. We'll start with beginning of March. They beat Palace, beat Arsenal, beat United. Palace was excited, but Arsenal away, Man United at home, massive results to win. Then, of course, humbled at Arsenal again, losing 4-0. Then a 2-1 loss to Villa. Shouldn't have happened, probably. 2-1 loss to Chelsea is expected. Bounce back with a 2-1 win at Brighton. As we said before, Brighton are a difficult team to go to, especially. They've demolished Arsenal. 2-2 draw with Tottenham. Probably should have won that game. Tottenham are in pretty poor form. And then, of course, losing 2-0 at home the other day is not going to help. Especially with, as I said, last game of the season, being Chelsea, they lost to twice already this season. It's not looking great for them.
Yeah, and what worries me is they've got obviously their key player, Olivia Smith, who, I feel like she's going to get snatched up by a bigger club on paper. So that potential effect next season.
I can see her, Holland, and Corbyn are all leaving, all 3 of them. So I don't know if they have the funds to bring in a team capable of competing with the top 4. As we mentioned, a lot of the top 4 is very different. It's a massive gap. And I think it would take another 4 or 5 seasons for another team to push into that. But I don't see it being Liverpool at the moment, just with the way they are. I know they've changed their manager recently. I just don't see it being them.
No, it's fair. It is fair. Is there anything else from the games that have happened the last couple of weeks you want to reflect on? Or do you want to look ahead to the next one? They've done something in particular, any players?
One goal I saw by Vivian SAE, West Ham playing.
Yep.
I think it's a game against Palace.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what goal. She just strikes it. I don't know how many yards out it was. I'm not good at all that. Like, was it 35? I don't know.
I think it was about just under 40
You
yards.
did get the ruler out and everything.
Yeah.
It was just under 40 yards.
Oh my gosh, she strikes the ball and then, like, obviously nothing the keeper could do.
Yeah.
But I saw that goal and I was like, what? Like, and I feel like I got a goal of the month.
She is one player that I feel like because of West Ham's form and their reputation or whatever in the
very
WSL,
underrated.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
I feel like if she was playing at an Arsenal, she would be the headliner.
It's insane. Like, okay, Jamie will probably be able to tell me the exact stats, but I think she's only played like a handful of games. Like,
how many?
Like, how many? Like 10?
We're having a look now.
Something like that.
She's played 20 games, 7 goals, 6 assists, which is a ridiculous...
20 games, okay. Sorry, bad stats.
But like... that's sorry, also... Also, 20 games, 7 goals and 6 assists is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane. Sorry, Vaseline's drops.
I'm actually interested you picked out that goal out of that game, because I wanted to pick up on Shakira Martinez, who scored 4 in that game.
Yeah.
Of course, it is against Palace, who are already relegated. But...
Yeah. I mean, they actually did draw to... Who did they draw to this week? I want to say Leicester.
Yeah, Leicester too.
Yeah.
Well, they got Man City next, so...
Crazy.
Yeah.
I just picked up that goal because obviously everyone looks at the spectaculars, isn't it? I mean,
it was
an unbelievable goal. Like I said, it got third goal of the month, maybe, I think, or goal of the season. Jane will be able to tell me. But
not sure about that.
Well,
I should know.
Like, please tell us.
I don't think all the season's out yet, because what we should do the next time we come back, because the season will be over, we should pick up a compilation of our goals and choose a goal of the season that we think.
No, definitely. I was going to say,
the season will be finished.
We're looking ahead to the last game of the season. Then in 2 weeks' time, when we next do it, it'll be 2 days before the Champions League final, and then obviously the season's done, so you can sort of see where
we've got FA Cup final as well.
Oh yeah, I'm going to they've got that like the week before. Because that's the thing, like, even though going into this weekend of fixtures, even though obviously Chelsea are unbeaten right now, they want to keep that, they also need to keep their form, but maybe not use all their key players. I mean, their squad depth is quite crazy.
This is the thing about rotation, right?
No.
It's the same thing. So yeah, we'll look onto that as well, because United, Chelsea is the 18th, so it will be next weekend, so definitely something we should probably keep an eye on.
No, definitely. Well, looking ahead to the last games, which is actually, I feel kind of sad that it's already over, but I feel like this season needs to be done now, especially with our form.
Yeah.
I'm like, right, can we just we need a fresh start next
season? From the bias point of view, let's restart.
No, literally. So this weekend, they're all obviously at the same time of 12:30 on Saturday. We have Arsenal versus United, Villa versus Brighton, Chelsea versus Liverpool, Everton versus Spurs, Leicester versus West Ham, and Man City versus Palace. So, what do you want to talk about first? What game? There's quite a lot of games.
I've only heard the first and the last game that she knows.
Should we start?
Let's do that again.
Right, sorry, was I going too quick?
Let's just go through each game.
Okay, Arsenal United.
Doing what?
That's a big game because it decides who comes second or third. We need to win. We have to win.
What happens if there's a draw?
Stays the same.
We still stay second because we're only 1 point. That's good. We're only 1 point ahead, whereas we were like 6 points at one point.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
So we have to draw or win.
Yeah,
I can see a draw happening. To be honest, I don't know. Maybe that's just like my mentality, just trying to not. I just see a draw because United want that. I'm sure. I mean, they obviously got Champions League already, but they want that second place. They want that final.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if we win the Champions League anyways, which likelihood is kind of crazy, but if we do win it, then we automatically go through that. We wouldn't need to come third, or second or whatever. But I think it was just as a reflection of Arsenal's season to come second. If you told me that the first couple of weeks of the season when we still had Jonas, I would have taken third or second. I would take anything. But then the minute Slagers came in, I was like, no, we have to get second spot, and it almost be discredit to her and what she's done with the team because she's transformed Arsenal, and that's why it's a shame that right now even she said in her post match, oh maybe Arsenal have been a little bit distracted with Champions League, but now I'm like, yeah, I get that, but also other teams somehow managed to do it as well, like competing in other competitions. So it's a bit tricky.
I'm going to say Arsenal win it 3-1. I think Arsenal, it will click in Arsenal that they need a good performance before this final, Because as you said, there's not really been a point this season where we've played incredible football.
Apart from Lyon.
That's what I mean.
The only game.
Maybe Lyon and Real Madrid.
Real Madrid, yeah.
However, even then, it is also down to the other teams kind of thinking they've won it already. Whereas what we need to do in that game is just a performance that shows we're not going to get walked over. Because if we put in no performance like we did in the last 2 games, Barcelona are going to walk all over this team. And I could see it being like 5-0 in the final. Arsenal get a win, get some confidence, have 2 weeks to prepare, no other games. You can rest, you can train, puts them in perfect position. Because I think, as you said, it's necessary to get a second position, but it's also crucial for the final. Because a loss could be devastating, especially to the fans. You need the fans to back you. Against one of your biggest rivals in the league, going into a final, you want that next 2 weeks of, I've forgotten the word in English now, like confidence and like looking forward to it instead of going, we've lost 3 games, what we even do.
Yeah, it is true. And I think especially it's going to be at the Emirates, like that it's our last home game of the season. We really need to show up. I feel like we could get a sold out crowd. Like I do feel like
I hope so.
There's a lot on this game. And as much as obviously you understand why all the games are played at the same time, it means that maybe Stamford Bridge won't be as packed because people and fans would rather see Arsenal. Because I feel like out of these games, it's quite I call me controversial or whatever, but it's quite a boring last day, like game day of the season.
The biggest game is Arsenal.
The biggest game is Arsenal United. And even that,
there's nothing else
we have to win. But even that, it's like, oh, but if we win in the final, then it's not the end of the world. And we've got Champions League. It's just.
But also, there's no one who wins the league on the last day. No one's relegated. Like there's nothing to play for. Really.
Yeah, it just seems like a bit of a like. Okay, it's just another game.
And climax, yeah.
But then when you look at, I don't know if you guys watched the Championship game, where it was London City Lionesses, who are obviously now promoted.
Incredible.
Obsessed with them. Love Michelle Kang. Like honestly, their whole like
looking forward to seeing them.
Vibe, yeah, so good. They basically are facing Birmingham City, and it was between them to decide who gets promoted. And it's so frustrating because obviously only one team can go up, and one team comes down. But it just made it more exciting. Whereas with the WSL, there's just not that passion. But I'm hoping having a team like London City Lionesses in there will be so good. I mean, it's an independent squad, the first one in the WSL, so there's no male team associated with them.
Yeah.
They're also, like, Michelle owns other teams. She owns the Lyon and Washington Spirit, which if London City Lionesses are going to replicate any sort of model formation, any sort of system like that, that we need to be worried. In a few seasons, I reckon they will be competing for the title. Yeah. Obviously, first season, I think they'll stay up, but it's just...
That's what I mean in terms of I think they have the financial backing to actually be able to come into the league and support themselves. And as you said, because there's no male club around it, what helps is all the investment goes straight into their team. When you look at a team like Palace, they invest so much in the men's team, the women's team might lose out on that. The fact that this team's coming in, what I'm hoping for is we see the massive investment come in. And of course, any investment money is going straight into that team. So it's so beneficial for them. And
I think it's exciting. It could be the future. I know there's a lot of question marks because it's like, oh, if you're owning multiple clubs, if one folds or something goes wrong with one of them, it affects the others. But I think with her, she just, I don't know, I get like such girls girl energy.
Yeah, there's definitely big queen vibes.
Literally,
big boss.
Like this is what happens when you invest in women's sport.
Yeah.
Like
well,
you just tell.
She's investing $55 million into the American women's like national setup as well. That for her to just go.
I don't know how she has this much money
on her own accord as well.
She's doing it in the right places.
Exactly.
On her own accord as well. She's just gone, look, I want to invest in this. Let's do it.
I loved how she held the trophy as well. I don't know if you saw that on social. But she like handed the trophy to the players as well. And she just seems involved. Whereas there's so much hate for owners and any sort of management higher up at clubs.
Because it's like they're distant.
Yeah, it's like, we see this as a business. Don't get me wrong. She's obviously doing very well with her business because it's become successful. They've been promoted. But I think they also see... So, little baby check-in.
Did you hear that on the mic? Okay, cool.
She's just hyping up the show as well. Like, honestly, she's like this girl. Like, hey girl.
I might tell you soon.
Oh,
good.
No, she's cozy.
Cool.
She's fine. She's just...
Anyway,
strapping in.
Back to the games.
Yeah, I don't know what we were saying. But yeah, I'm excited about London City Lionesses. I feel like they definitely had the better last day of the season because there was actually stuff riding on it. I feel like the only other game really that I kind of want to highlight, like I feel like all of them, it's about finishing the season on a high, but especially after what we mentioned earlier with City, I think it's even more important that they finish the season on a high, because the last month they've been knocked out of 2 or 3 competitions, I think it is, which is very obviously humbling for them. So I think this game they need to finish on a high. It's against Palace, who are already relegated. Yeah. So
I mean, they're just not going to finish on a high, really, are they? I mean, it's like they do like
they're going down anyways. So
and that's a risk game, and they like beat City or something, or get a couple goals or like just a goal to celebrate. You know what I mean? Because it's quite like sad if you put it that way. They haven't had a good run.
You don't want a team coming and getting battered and going back down.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's why I'm kind of more hopeful about London City going up, because I'm like, they've got a good foundation to them that I don't see them going back down.
Yeah.
So
I hear it. There's one team I want to pick up on.
Yeah, I was going to say you were like ready to.
No, I just looked at it now. So I want to pick up on Everton Tottenham.
Okay.
Because Tottenham's form is atrocious. They have lost, they have not won in 10.
And why do you think that is? Because I feel like I have a few ideas.
I think I know what it is.
Yeah?
I think I know what it is with a lot of teams, whether it's a WSL Premier League. Sorry, don't mean to.
I know.
I think it's purely because if the men's team aren't as successful, then there's just no help in the women's team.
It's interesting.
Obviously, Tottenham, I guess it's kind of, they're 16th or 17th in the Premier League, but then they've got the Europa, whatever.
Yeah.
But like every time I look at a WSL team and I see they're not doing as good, the first thing I'm thinking is, where's the men's team at? Because I feel like if you're not funding the men's team that well, then there's no hope for the women's team.
I haven't even thought.
All the resources get thrown into the men's team if they're not doing well.
Yeah, that's what I always think.
United, maybe, because United are stinking in the men's team.
Yeah,
good
true,
in the women.
True, but then that's just pure talent.
It's quality. It's quality. But I know what you mean, though. It does make sense almost. Tottenham are atrocious in the Premier League, but then they're throwing everything at them, and it does make sense because, some of the games, they shouldn't be drawing 1-1 with Leicester.
Yeah.
1-0 lost to Brighton.
It's like, and then it's like I don't know what the real background. I mean, with any like football team, whether it's international or domestic, I'm always looking at the background.
Yeah. I was going to say, before we started from you were like dissing this team, like this club and this.
It's always from the background. Like you can have star players on the pitch, but if the foundations aren't good, then everything else is going to.
You've got to be supported from the top.
Exactly, and the harsh reality is that. Obviously, unless it's a club like London City Lionesses, where it's like, it's just them, their men's team, there will always be more attention in the men's team than there would be in the women's team. So obviously, they would get more attention first. So it's like, okay, if that's the case, then the women's team can't be that successful. Do you know what I'm saying?
I didn't even consider it.
It's a shame, but it's something I always think of. Like, I look at Crystal Palace as well, and I think the men's team has just been always like a mid-table team. Yeah. They've just always been around, not been good enough to win the league, but never bad enough to get relegated. Yeah. So I look at the women's team, and it's like foundation just isn't there. And I think like that team at Palace really secures that thought of mine, where it's like, okay,
no, I mean,
if it's the case, and
it makes complete sense. I think the biggest example is United, of how the owners outwardly say they don't care about their women's side. Yeah. When there's an issue with the men's like training ground or whatever, they use the women's and kick the women out. Yeah. So I feel like they always will prioritise the men. And
they cancelled the women's.
Don't understand
why. Was it last year, the end of season award? They cancelled it because they wanted to save money.
Yeah, they've been
that's
ridiculous.
But that's why I think, if anything, the best thing to come out of the last week is that the women are going to Champions League football, because they're going to compete in Europe, which is something that obviously the men are doing right now in Europa League, but it's not the Champions League. Like, it's not the greatest.
I think I watched an interview with Radcliffe, and they went, the women's team, we have a women's team. When your owner is shocked you have a women's team.
Yeah. I mean, it's only been around for like 6-7 years, but
the fact that he set it up and he's shocked that they even have it.
Yeah, and I think also Mark Skinner, obviously he's quite a controversial character anyways, but I mean, he'll obviously have to stay now. He's got them to Europe, in my opinion. But he came out and was like, Manchester United are the biggest club. And I was like, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but then he's obviously looking at the club as a whole and the reputation that they are one of the biggest clubs in the world. But I think that is because of the men's, because the women's, he worded it as they're a young club, and I was like, I completely agree with that. Like, they're so fresh to the scene, but maybe getting into the Champions League now and building this, who knows what we're going to be saying in a few decades' time about them. Like, I feel like could be quite exciting.
Even with Wolves, the women's team, like what's happening recently. With, was it them not being able to get promoted?
You know what, the money, I think, basically they obviously didn't make the position to get promoted, but what happened was that even if they did get into that top spot to get promoted, no one at the club paid for them to apply. I didn't actually know you had to apply, but no one paid for them to apply. I know, it's such a bad story, isn't it? She's like, girl,
she made me jump.
Tell me about it.
She woke up, she made me jump.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
She's smiling.
Okay, she's smiling. No, there's a frown going on there. She's not happy. That's what we're saying. Like,
literally, like,
it's just insane, though.
It's an absolute joke.
Like, what do you mean you're just not going to pay for them to go higher up, or you're just not going to put the money into that?
But it's not. It's not. What do you mean you haven't applied? I understand the whole you have to apply. It makes sense. You have to get everything ready. But what do you mean? Like, but by the halfway point in the season, they knew that they were going to be challenging for that.
Yeah.
They were already like 14 points clear.
It makes no sense.
How have you?
But then I looked at the money and I was like, oh my, it's a lot of money. It was like, okay, this could just be a random figure. It was like 100 grand or something, and I was like, that's so much money. And then I went, wait, what do the men get paid a week? And I was like, that's not. I was like, that's not a lot of.
Some of their reserve players are paid like 80k a week.
Yeah, like I was like,
they could
for a women's side. I was like, oh, that's actually.
They just couldn't be bothered. They genuinely just. They promised you they couldn't be bothered.
It's just a business to a lot of these owners, to a lot of these higher people at the club. It's literally just a business. So if the business isn't going well for the men's team, they're not going to bother with the women's team.
Exactly.
And all that stuff, which is such a big shame. But
I think the last thing I want to pick up just on the Tottenham game is I think we could see Beth England and Naz leaving Tottenham. I think that's why I picked up on it.
Oh.
Their form is awful, and of course transfer window is coming up.
Where would they go?
I don't know yet, but I think Liverpool will look at some of these players and go, yeah, Beth England's quality striker.
She's captain.
Jess Naz has been great.
Is she at the end of her season? Like at the end of her career?
She's 30. I don't think she's not gonna be happy with the way this season's gone. And I think she'll be looking to leave. And I think teams like Brighton, teams like Liverpool, possibly even West Ham, will look at these kind of players and go, we could pick them up. We've got a better squad. We've got a better foundation. And I think the players will want to leave.
That just means they have to stay up, though.
Exactly.
Like, you have to stay. If you're going to pick up these other players, you literally have to stay up.
No, 100%.
I'm actually just thinking London City Lionesses, they've got the funding behind them.
Why not?
I feel like they're good. Obviously, right now they have quite a few Arsenal loanees, like players anyways. They've got quite a few players that obviously maybe weren't good enough to play in the WSL, but now they're promoted back up. I reckon they could definitely take a few other WSL players. Yeah. So I feel like they definitely can't be underestimated. Like I actually
dark horses.
Yeah, I'm quite excited.
It's
excited to see how they.
Next season's looking good.
No, literally. Just to mix up as well, I thought we'd do a little. It's not like a game, but it's just like something like quick fire vibe. Just because I feel like otherwise it can be quite heavy. Just talking about the games, a lot of issues. I mean, Olivia's even frowning at it. Like it can be heavy stuff. So you want to, turn that frown upside down. This one is like a fill in the gap. So I'll say like a blank, like I'll be like blank is, and then you guys just fill in the gap,
Okay.
Okay. But it's in like it's nothing. Like it's literally just so opinion based.
Okay, I get it.
You don't need to know your stats.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Right, you don't.
No.
So the first one is blank is the most underrated player, like this season, this WSL season.
That's a good one. I'm gonna have to look up some stuff. That's a good one, actually. You gonna help me? So about.
I feel like she was thinking. I mean, you mentioned obviously West Ham striker.
Yeah, I was gonna just go with that because obviously we ain't got all day.
Yeah, to be fair, I was like saying a lot
because especially seeing as West Ham have just I feel like maybe halfway through the season they've just kind of picked up a bit and gotten a bit more exposure. I would just give it to Vivian SAE. I feel like she's been at West Ham for a little while now as well, and I guess it's one of those players where she's always been quality for West Ham. But maybe because of the team she's in, like we said, she hasn't quite gotten her, her individual shine that she deserves. But I'll give it to her. I'll give it to her. Just that was a
I'm going to go with the. I'm going to go with another West Ham player, Shakira Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Come in from Freiburg, first season, 14 games, 10 goals. Sorry, 11 games, 10 goals, 14 little competitions. Incredible. Like, that return for a striker in your first season is pretty good.
Yeah. I do feel like a lot of West Ham players are underrated for
sure. Now you can hear it on the mic. Yeah.
Oh, stop it.
She's enjoying it.
We'll just get baby fever. Okay, the next one. The link up between blank and blank is the best in the league. So 2 players that you're like, I thought of these on the tube here. I was like, let me...
I would say the Lauren James and who's Chelsea's
just Lauren James. Lauren James and Lauren James.
Oh no, honestly, Lauren James is anyone in that Chelsea team. But no, who's that Chelsea?
I feel like Lauren James and Lucy Bronze work really well as well, actually.
I was gonna say Baltimore as well.
Okay, yeah.
Baltimore and James, they
sort of
where the way they play together works perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Or their striker as well. I've actually completely forgotten the name of their striker.
Which one? I feel like they actually have quite a few. Ramirez?
Caterina.
Oh.
I think the way they work together is incredible because you have the physicality. They're both strong, both fast, and I think pretty much every time Lauren James puts a ball into the box, she's on the end of it every single time.
That is true.
So I think that's what I'm going to go for.
I'm gonna go
research,
just a little bit, just a trigger. But I'm not gonna go for attackers. I'm gonna go for defenders.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna go Lucy Bronze and Millie Bright.
Okay.
I think like those two. It's just like you just it's no one's getting through. Yeah, it's just so, they're just so solid. Like
it's the best.
Literally, you're solid defender. Like if you want like a typical defender, see Millie Bright alone is just your typical defender. Do you know what I mean? So I think like. Chelsea don't concede much either, and obviously they've got a great goalkeeper, a whole system from head to toe.
I feel like they're good at covering as well.
Yeah,
you're not really getting past.
Yeah, I'll give it to those two.
Focusing more on clubs now, blank will get relegated next season. It's so early to tell. We don't know what's happening in the summer. We don't know anything about it. Like, we're straight away. Okay, I was going to use Leicester.
No, I think if Leicester don't change anything, I can see them going. They're 7 points off Palace now. Don't get me wrong, Palace have been not great this season. But,
she's got
but yeah, I think if Leicester don't change anything, they'll be the bottom team. Don't say United.
I think.
Don't say Chelsea.
I'm going to throw Tottenham out there.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking this, and now I'm like, well, people just think it's because,
That's why I didn't say it. I thought the same thing.
If they're going on the way they're going now.
Okay, I'm going.
Sorry, we mentioned Tottenham.
I'm going.
We actually have the same reaction.
I'm going.
Arsenal. She's not crying a lot.
Oh, see, she's still crying.
Oh, we're good.
Oh my God.
Just because of us.
Anyway, I'll just say T.
Yeah, T.
It's a trigger word for some people. That's okay. Yeah, I think,
that's funny.
If they keep going on the way it's going, like I mentioned from the background staff as well, then I don't really see how they can develop.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really going to attract top players because of the position they're in right now. There's not really anything promising for them. Like you look at a lot of the teams that are already in WSL now, and obviously there's a lot where you don't see much hope for them. But for me, Tottenham is all the teams I actually don't know where they're going to go from here. Especially if they do lose their top players. Then
I think both are very valid answers.
Yeah.
I think Olivia agrees as well, so not too shabby. Slightly like similar lines, but not as far as relegation. Blank will drop to mid-table next season. So maybe a team that's in like the top 4 right now. Top 4, top 5.
C.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I'm actually not going to say that. I'm going to say United.
Okay.
Oh.
Because Champions League football, I think, could take too much of a toll on them.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to bring in players who are Champions League, who've already played in the Champions League. Because otherwise they're going to be a bit starstruck. And it's going to kind of hit them quite tough. Because I think, look, it's all good being in the Champions League. The whole point is you want to win the competition and get to the last stages. I had the same thing with the Arsenal men's team recently, where last 2 seasons Champions League for the first time in however many years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're looking at it going, cool, it's all good getting here, but you actually want to.
The quarters.
That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get to the quarters. You want to get to the semi-finals. If you go out in the group stage, you look at it, what was the point of making it?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you then don't make it again. And I think it could take quite a toll on United, because I don't know at the moment if they have the exact quality to get through against big European teams. If they come up against Barcelona, Lyon, I can't see them winning the game. I can't see them beating Lyon the way we did. Mm-hmm. We have players who have played in European competitions, won, the Euros, have won World Cups. I think that's where I just think United need to change, otherwise they could drop off massively.
No, definitely. I think it's got to be out of City United.
Yeah.
If we're looking at the top 4, I don't know. Like, if someone said to you, "Oh, Arsenal are going to be mid-table," like, would you?
Nah, not mid-table. Possibly drop down to 4th, but I wouldn't say mid-table.
Well, I'm saying the top 4, even obviously the Premier League, they really don't have a top 6 anymore. Really, like all the teams are just so scattered.
Tottenham don't.
But even United.
Sorry, T.
Oh, sorry, T.
Sorry.
It's just calm. But yeah, like as in with the WSL, it is generally just the top 4 teams. So I feel like it's got to be one of them. The last question, which sort of obviously links away from the WSL, is blank will win the Champions League this year.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
All at the same time, ready? No.
My heart tells me Arsenal. My head's telling me Barcelona.
That's a good one. You took the words out. That's a good one.
And I was literally about to say, I don't think any of us can deny that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of fans will want Arsenal to win it, because it's always nice to see someone else win it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like this Champions League final for the men's. It's nice not having Real Madrid. It's nice, seeing a team like PSG or Inter. They haven't won it in however many years. And I think that's the thing.
Whereas Barca have just...
Barca have dominated.
It's boring.
I think what we want is an incredible game. We want an incredible game. Of course, as fans, we're going to want Arsenal to come out on top. But I think what football needs, I think what women's game needs, is just an incredible final, no matter which way it goes. Mm-hmm. You see like the Barcelona Inter Milan game the other day. Oh both God. Legs, absolutely incredible. Absolute.
If we could have that in the final,
absolute spectacle for men's football. Incredible. You want the same thing for women's football. No matter which way it goes, you want a good game. You want an entertaining game, because that's what brings fans, especially in a competition this big.
I thought, to be honest, we could have got that in the semi-finals, Chelsea and Barca. I thought we'd be able to get that, but
games.
Yeah, turns out not quite. But yeah, I think I literally took the words out of my mouth. I'm gonna have to agree that Barca are probably gonna take it, but I hope it's at least like a 3-2 or like show some sort of fight. And waiting, but yeah,
we're all good.
Okay, well, anyways,
we'll see, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think we should do a little quiet round of applause for Olivia on her first show.
Why was I the loudest one? I'm the one with on my chest. She's back to sleep.
She's probably the most chill.
She heard Tottenham cried and went back to sleep.
Yeah.
I respect
it.
That is actually, obsessed.
I respect it. I respect it.
But yeah. No,
it's been good.
It's been good. I feel like it's crazy that we've obviously discussed the penultimate games of the season. Now we're going into the final game. And then obviously got the Champions League. We will be back in 2 weeks' time. This is obviously the Diamond Show, so it's the show where we talk about women's football, predominantly the WSL. If you want to check out any other shows, because we have a lot, maybe like 5 or 6, I want to say. Other ones, up to 7. Okay, we're getting more and more. There's even an F1 show recently, which I saw.
F1,
pretty cool.
Boxing, MMA.
Yeah, got a lot.
Yeah,
got a lot going on.
I do want to mention one thing.
Charity game.
Yeah, the tickets are now on sale.
Mm-hmm.
For the 13th of July.
Should be a good game.
M Group Stadium in Oxford City. Get your tickets. They are now on sale. I'm pretty sure it's starting £5. Very cheap.
That's a bargain.
Absolutely.
I feel like it's going to be carnage as well. Like you want to be there.
Exactly. And also keep up with the social medias, because we're going to start announcing players. Mm-hmm. We've announced the managers.
I say managers, captains we've seen.
Yeah.
A little bit of a teaser.
Players are starting to come out.
I'm just as like oblivious as well. So I'm like,
by the time this comes out on our Instagram, we would have at least had a couple of players out.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that. As I said, tickets are out. Link will be in the description below. Definitely. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Should be a good one. Keep across all socials for obviously the charity game, all the other shows, especially the Diamond Show, because we'll be back in 2 weeks. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment down below. Okay, perfect.
Bye.